and welcome back to the Free Speed Podcast, your go-to podcast for navigating fitness and life with purpose. I'm your host, Tash.
And I'm Cal.
And today we're going to be talking about our biggest takeaways from moving across the world to Australia.
It's crazy because it's almost been 10 months, nine and a half months. And since the cyclone in March, it's been just lightning speed. Like it's been just the last 5 months. This happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sound cliche, but it's like the back half of the year accelerates, and the next thing you know, it's January again, and you're like, holy shit! Like I'm a year older, I'm a year wiser, but I'm not. I'm not a year further along than where I wanted to be. Yeah. And every year, you're never where you want to be. Never. I think it's crazy because when I was younger, I was like, oh, like I'm young enough that I can still fuck up and everything will be okay. There's a point where if you actually don't do anything with your life, then it does feel like it's like you don't have those years that you used to. But I think that's completely the wrong perspective. I think there's always time, and that's how I live. And I think that's how we live, Tash, and how we try and like be happy is if you love what you do, then you'll never need to retire. Money will never be an issue because you just continue chasing what you love to do and surround yourself with that. And then you'll ultimately you'll get to where you need to. So with that, it's been 9.5 months in Australia, and it was never the way I had expected it to be. I don't think our experience here was at all what I expected it to be.
But in saying that, I had these high expectations because of what I saw on social media. And I'm not saying that it didn't like live up to the expectation. Like living here is really nice. The weather for the most part is nice. Like we avoided a Canadian winter. We came here end of October in 2024. And that's like summertime here. So we literally just missed a whole season, which is nice. But it gets freaking hot here in the summer to the point where you go for a run and you're literally dying. Like you might have cardiac arrest.
I don't even remember how hot it was.
It was so hot.
And how much it was unbearable.
I remember how unbearable it was because I wasn't running. I literally was like, fuck this, I'm not running. And that's why I did so bad in my High Rocks race. Because it was so hot.
That's why I was running at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Night after night after night, drenched in sweat.
But anyways, what was I saying? I'm not saying it didn't live up to the expectations, but it's definitely different than what you see on social media. Especially because what you see on social media are full-time content creators who wake up and go have a coffee and do a sunrise morning beach walk and work out and then edit the video and go to bed and do it all the next day. Yeah, must be nice to live that life. But when you have to find a job to support yourself and to pay rent, like rent here is so expensive.
Yeah, it's by the week for those of you who don't know that. So
$570 a week.
Yeah.
Is what we are
And that's
paying.
cheap. That's very cheap.
Yeah.
But I think right off that, what I found, and I don't want this is not the episode where we're going to like complain or anything like that, but there really is no culture in Australia, or at least where we are here, because the culture in the Gold Coast is the blend of all these people who have moved to the Gold Coast. I don't think I've met more than 3 people who are actually from the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And so everybody has moved from wherever they're from and then made friends in the Gold Coast. So the Gold Coast has zero culture, if that makes sense. It has a lot of different multicultural people from different places, but the culture of itself, the best way to describe it is like when you go to Brazil and there's that, you just feel it. You feel that Brazilian cultural. It's a terrible example. I've never been to Brazil. But what I mean by that is no matter where you go, there's usually a very distinct culture. When you go back to Canada, it's the sports bars, it's the winter, the hockey. It's that like everybody's talking about certain things, and I feel like it's very common in a bunch of places around the world. It doesn't feel like that here, and I think that's why it feels like it's missing a little piece of that. And I think for some reason that's what I expected more of.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I expected in terms of culture when we moved here. But the whole point of this episode today is the fact that it's end of August now and we're moving out of our place in 2 weeks, which is crazy.
When this comes out, it'll be less than we might have already moved out.
Yeah. And the reason we're moving out is because we're doing Perth High Rocks, and that's in September. And after that, we're flying up to Cairns. Sorry.
Where was I? Where someone made fun of me?
For the Canadians, Cairns.
Yeah, so there's definitely an R.
For the Aussies, Cairns.
There's definitely an R in there, but they don't pronounce it. And I don't know where I was, but I started getting bullied. I started getting bullied for saying it the wrong way. Oh yeah, aunt. Good aunt. So I was getting bullied for saying it the wrong way. It's all good though, because what I actually don't like is when people, anyone who's listening to this, you know what I'm talking about. Someone who speaks a language that isn't the native language trying to say the accent of the native language.
Like Ibiza.
Or
I'm going to Ibiza.
Or hit us with a Melbourne. I hate it. If you don't know how to say the accent, I say you hit it with the most English accent. Hit the R. Melbourne. All right? That's how I am. I don't like the fake accent. But on the flip side of that, like Brisbane, you can say Brizzy because there's no, like, you can still say the short form or the slang. It's just the accent. When you like fake the accent, it sounds it's just not it.
Melbourne. It just doesn't sound, like, just sounds like you're trying too hard.
Exactly.
Anyways, so we're flying up to Cairns.
Cut. No, we're not cutting that.
We're flying up to Cairns, and then we're taking a trip from Cairns, I can't even say it, down to Sydney, because Cal's parents are flying in from Canada, and they are kindly taking us on an Australia trip. And we haven't yet explored Australia since moving here, so we're so excited to do that.
Yeah,
because when we sorry.
No, you go.
Because when we first moved here, we flew into Sydney. We spent a few days in Sydney, and then we just came right to the Gold Coast and tried to settle in and tried to find a job, and that's it. And we went to Melbourne once for like a weekend, but we didn't really explore much or anything. But that's really all we saw in Australia so far. So we're really excited to do this trip.
And this is just the beginning of hopefully the best documentation and travel vlogs, and we want to film a bunch of this stuff because, like Tash said, we're flying to Perth, doing the High Rocks there, but then gonna drive down to like southwestern Australia, which has some crazy beaches, and we're gonna do that in a camper van, like old school. There's no toilet, there's no shower, camper van style. And from that, then like Tash said, we're flying all the way up north and then working 3 weeks all the way down to Sydney, which is going to be an epic trip, because anytime you're with your parents, like your parents, my parents are definitely going to not be penny pinching like most people would be if they were on their own. And that's different than the trip that Tash and I are going to take to Asia, which we want to just explore and travel like backpackers. And that'll be a good trip as well, which is 3.5 weeks after we get back. So we finished this Australia trip around September 3rd, and then we're going to be down in Sydney, and we're going to have some good podcast guests in Sydney. We're going to manifest that right now. And then we're going to fly back up to the Gold Coast. We'll have 2.5 weeks in the Gold Coast and train for turf games, which is this. It's funny because that's the reason Ollie, my business partner, came to Australia. And it's like right when we're leaving Australia. It's just funny how that timing worked out. And it's the gauntlet of travel that we have planned, which is Tash and I going the day after the fitness competition, the turf games competition, to Bali, then to Thailand, then up to Cambodia. We don't even have half this trip planned because we want it to be one of those things where we can adventure a bit more. But we're doing that, and then Vietnam, and then Singapore, and ending in Japan. And it's just going to be almost like a month and a half of traveling. And so this is kind of the first time we've talked about it. We haven't really talked, obviously we've told people that we're traveling, but that'll be just a crazy experience because I think one of the things that we both have talked about is downwards gratitude.
Shout out Benji.
Downwards gratitude is definitely something where you can appreciate what you have when you see how little others have. And I think that's a piece of it. But then I also think you take for granted what drinking water, how easy it is, and how much you don't think about like just your health. And I'm almost convinced that on this trip, one of us is going to get sick.
Yeah.
And I want to prepare for that. And that's, I think, the most important thing is we need to mentally go in, okay, like one of us is definitely going to get sick, if not both of us. It's a matter of when. And if you prepare for that and it doesn't happen, then
we just need to get these pills that I saw Omei post about when she went to Asia, and it like prevents sickness. So we just need to buy those pills and hopefully.
You take them preemptively.
I think so. I don't actually know.
So you just take them the whole time you're there.
No, don't quote me on it.
Okay.
Anyways, whole point of this episode was our biggest takeaways from moving across the world, from Canada to Australia, with literally zero plan, no job, nothing.
And if you're listening to this and you just heard that whole spiel, and you've been to Asia and you are like, this is the place you need to go, send us a message, because I love going to places where the locals or like people who have already been there, like that's my favorite experience.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
But sorry,
no, it's
keep
all
going.
Good. So yeah,
the biggest takeaways.
Well, yeah, our biggest takeaways. I've said this like 8 times now.
All right, so now we're getting in. Finally, our biggest takeaways since we moved 15,000 kilometers.
One thing I've taken away from moving to Australia alone is how much shit you actually don't need in your life. And I say this because we moved here with a suitcase and a carry-on. And all of my belongings are in there, and I'm living out of that. And obviously, I think I maybe bought like a few pieces of clothing for work, and maybe like this t-shirt and a pair of shoes for my marathon. Other than that, I don't think I've ever bought myself anything. Just coffees every day. But it's crazy because back home, it's so different because I feel like everyone just gets caught up in, oh, what's trending? What's the next nice thing to buy at Aritzia? Like, what should I be like wearing to go out this weekend? Like, what should I buy for this birthday party? We've really learned and like nailed down the whole minimalism aspect of everything. Obviously, like, it's not ideal, okay? Wearing the same clothes and just like rotating through the same few t-shirts and pants that you've seen us wear on this podcast, it's not ideal.
Not ideal.
Not ideal. But the fact that like people overconsume so much and buy so much unnecessary shit. It's actually crazy to me. And that was probably both of us. Like, we have so many clothes just sitting in the drawers back home that we are not touching and will probably never touch again.
This is the best segue. You already know where I'm going.
I don't know where you're going with this.
Facebook Marketplace. Tash and I have been talking about me confessing.
Okay, let me preface this by saying we need to sell some shit. Like, we've accumulated like a few surfboards since moving here that we've used once, and like our set for our podcast that we built back home before we came to the studio. We had like a few things that we needed to sell on Facebook Marketplace, and ever since we decided to sell our shit, Calvin's become obsessed with Facebook Marketplace.
It's crazy.
Obsessed.
In reality, what it is just like you said, you realize how much stuff you have, but then also when you have to leave, you realize that you're not like you might as well sell it all. You might as well get rid of it. And what I think is the funniest part is it's a game. It's literally almost like real life video games.
I think that's why you're so addicted to like the whole aspect of it, because you used to be like a serial video gamer.
Well, no, because I think that's what's funny though is it wasn't really, there's aspects of video games that I really enjoyed, but I only got into it because of the social aspect of it. And because it was the alternative to being bored. And then it also is easier to fill your time with doing something that's actually hard work. And I think that's the worst thing that I ever did in an element of it. But yeah, it's funny because Facebook Marketplace, gosh, is this a vice? But it's like fishing. It's the best way I describe it. I tell Tash, I'm in the car yesterday and I'm talking about how I've gotten a couple nibbles on my items.
Your bike listing.
My bike got a couple nibbles. I'm trying to sell my bike right now, and it's funny because I just have had no luck with it. And yesterday I decided.
What do you mean by no luck? Like people.
Nobody's like even messaging.
No one's even messaging.
No one's even
lowballing.
No, not even. I've gotten one lowball, and the guy looked like he was in Africa. I don't even think he was in the continent. So. And keep in mind, like I've dropped the price. It's just like I'm not even getting messages, which means I need traffic. And so I decided yesterday, I was like, Tash, we're leveling up. We're going to Facebook ads. So this is insane. I started running a Facebook ad on Marketplace, which I don't even think it says if it's an ad on Marketplace or not. I'm not sure. I've never seen someone's ad like show up. I think it just, when someone searches a bike, my item gets boosted to the top, which is even better. But out of $4 I've spent so far and like 2,500 views, I've gotten one message. And it's just funny because this bike that I'm trying to sell is proving to be harder than I realized. And it's like it's come down to the last two things, my bike and my car. And I need to start figuring that out, because now that we're leaving, those are the things that you just need to sort out. And it's just funny because you never think about that being like the biggest stress in your life, but yeah, here we are. Facebook Marketplace has a chokehold on my life, because I'm always looking for something that I don't need.
Literally.
And I'm always trying to sell something.
It's like 10 p.m. and I'm catching him on his Facebook Marketplace just scrolling, and I'm like, what are you doing?
It's funny.
So
you know what I think it is? It's like this sense that I got from this one video game I used to play, like NBA, where people would like you sell something and you just assume in your head it's like a disease, that someone's going to sell something at a insane deal, and that you're going to take advantage of someone else and be able to like get a crazy deal for something that is like, it's like it's so embarrassing to me because it's like extreme couponing. I can't believe I'm even talking about this right now, but it's fun to me. That's why I enjoy it. It's more of the game. I don't really care about like it's cool to get a deal, but it's more about the game of it. And my friend Logan, who just had to move to Saudi Arabia for a job, we've been like talking back and forth because he's been trying to sell things too, and I helped him sell his e-bike. And it's just funny because these people show up to your house with cash, and like we just sold his e-bike for almost $3,000, and like these people come up with like $3,000 of 50s and like 5s and 10s.
It's called going to the bank and getting
No,
cash.
no. They don't come with the set price. They come to like haggle with you. They come, and I was selling the surfboard, and the price was like $50. I sold that table in our living room. It was listed for $25, guys. The woman, when I show up to her house, she goes, "So will you take 20?" What? Are you serious right now? Like, sure. I'll take 20. Take the fucking table. I'm fucking leaving. So bad. It's just funny because, yeah, of course you can have it for $20. Like, if that's what you think it's worth, then you can have it. But it's just funny. Anyway, that was a long tangent on Facebook Marketplace, and maybe stay away from it if you're like me.
Anyways, back to our Australia takeaways. That one thing I was talking about was just how much shit we have back home that you don't even need. And that is one thing I will carry with me for the rest of my life, is just not buying unnecessary amounts of clothing. And not just clothing, just like anything. You don't need to buy a new water bottle every month like I used to. You don't need, 500 pairs of shoes. I've been wearing the same shitty pair of Amazon Birkenstock knockoffs for a year, and they're still intact, and I'm still wearing them.
I think it's funny because you easily just like clutter your area. You easily clutter your area because you think it's organized, but you do prefer it cleaner. And what I mean by that is like a kitchen. There was these moms that I was close with in San Jose, and they would have these kitchens that like there's nothing on the countertops, literally clean countertops.
I love that.
And I know you love that, and that's what we need to get to. But it's like, that means every time you use the toaster, you need to take it out of the drawer, plug in the toaster, and it's just like, it's just funny because the toaster can just live on the counter, but it's a mindset. And it's maybe the mindset shift that you need to make.
That's funny. Personally, I think the toaster should just stay on the fucking counter. But when it comes to everything else, just fucking take it off. Anyways, that was we moved here on a visa called the Working Holiday 417 visa. And it's super easy to get. You literally apply online, you pay $600, and you get approved almost instantly, and you have your visa, and then you just book your flight to Australia and you go. So keep that in mind. If you're moving to Australia, you do need a visa. Even if you're just visiting, I'm pretty sure you need one. But we came on this 417 visa. It is 1 year of work, can be extended to 2 years if you do farm work in a rural area, which we did not do because we didn't want to. Which I did not do because I didn't want to.
That sounds like I wanted to do it. I didn't want to do it either. But when Tash and I talked about coming here, I was like, Tash, why don't we do the farm work? And so we could do two years.
Yeah, and looking back now, like maybe we could have done it, But at the same time, like, is it really what we wanted to be like, make like making beef jerky in a rural farm in like Darwin? Like,
The
no.
only reason I think it would have actually been valuable is if we went to the right place, and it's all hearsay now. If we had gone to the right place and met people who had been from here or whatever, then it would have actually allowed us to like create a connection that might have led to a job or something. And it would have been all like without including the fact that like we would still then have 19 months.
Like, yes and no, because this
Or
is
sorry, no, that's terrible math.
this
21 months.
this
21
is just
months.
how I personally felt,
Yeah.
just from experiencing it all, is that a lot of the people that come here and move here from the UK and Canada and the US, and they're on this working holiday visa, a lot of them are young, a lot of them like to party, a lot of them are doing it just to meet people and then party on the weekends. And like that couldn't be closer to what I would ever want. Like, that is so not me. So I honestly don't think I would have benefited from that. And if we would have done that, we wouldn't have maybe met the people that we did at Adatora or wherever we met the people that we did.
The
You know
whole
what I mean?
timing would have been messed up.
Yeah.
And I think even what we've realized is in the last 9-10 months that we've been here, like we're at the point where there's almost a fresh turnover of people.
Yeah.
A lot of our
it's
friends
crazy.
have already left, or a lot of them are leaving.
Yeah.
And
The
it's
Gold Coast, I've heard someone say it before, and it's literally just like in and out, in and out. People are constantly coming and going, and it's insane. And it's just such a different experience than to back home, where everything just stays stagnant and nothing happens. And it's like, I'm scared, kind of scared to go back home, because everything's going to be the exact same it was a year ago. You know what I mean?
yes and no.
Anyways, so we moved here on this visa, and I have never lived away from home before, so it was like a very big jump for me. Obviously, I lived with Calvin in California for 3 months when we did that road trip down, so I knew what it was like to live alone. But moving across the entire world by yourself, obviously I had Calvin, is just so different. So obviously just learning how to be an adult, and you just pick up new skills, and you really learn how just to be a better version of yourself when you're more independent. I feel like, at least that's how I feel.
If you're looking for growth, then you need to look within yourself, and you need to find time to grow and not depend on other people. And that's something that I have taken a ton, because I'm just so easily connected to like my parents, my friends, that sometimes I was listening to a podcast recently about this guy who did this race, this paddling race. He kayaked the Yukon River, starting up in Whitehorse, which is in the Yukon in Canada, Northern Territory in Canada, and it goes all the way to Alaska. It's 1,000-mile race. And he was talking about how it's the most isolated and lonely place that he's ever been. Like there wasn't people who could help him 100 miles from him at some points. And it's something about that's not at all what it's like here, but there's something about being able to be independent that allows you to just completely change like your point of view, because your vices and everything, your environment, usually influence you way more than you realize. And that's why I think that you can start just really focusing on yourself and being a little bit selfish in the right reasons. I think it's good to be selfish sometimes, because you need to sometimes prioritize yourself over just being, oh, I guess I'll just go to the sports bar tonight because that's what all my friends are doing and I don't want to feel like I'm missing out, fear of missing out. What was that thing that Logan put on his story? the opposite of the fear of missing out, the joy of missing out? JOMO. JOMO. The joy of missing out. Try and
That's kind of how I feel being here. Like, obviously I miss everyone back home, but it is quite nice being in your own little world. But anyways, what I wanted to touch on was the expectations versus reality of everything. And when we first moved here, a big reason why we moved here was because we saw people like Anna Archer, who is pretty big on social media, moved to Australia, and the way that she kind of captured it online and shared it with everyone was just like this whole magical experience. And then people like Ollie Moore, like Cal's business partner right now, posting all this fitness content at this gym that he was working out at and coaching at, and it just looked like the best atmosphere that we wanted to be in. And then we moved here, and it was very similar to what was shared online, but a key part of what you don't see is just the hardships of like everyday life.
Or the intricacies of the relationships between everyone.
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with that specific group of people. It's more like when you look from a lens at any sort of community or person or whatever it is, and you think, oh, this element of their life looks really cool, or this part of their life looks really cool. You don't even know half of the drama and half of the shit that goes on in that community that is maybe just a mirage. There might be a lot of like stuff that you really have no interest in being a part of, or and this really truly has nothing to do with these people, but I think in general, in just our experience, is you don't realize the complexity of the relationships in any environment to the degree when you think it looks from social media always like a highlight reel.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
And also just being surrounded by influencers all the time is a very interesting feeling. And a lot of people might not like that feeling. I didn't mind it.
It kind of feels
I didn't mind it, but it just goes to show like we moved here with the intention of meeting these people, and we did. But they're just another human. They're just another person. And that's what I love about it. Is like
what I think you're trying to say is you're a small fish in a big pond when you come over here. And I think when you come here, you build the confidence in yourself to be just who you are because you see other people who are doing it so naturally.
Yeah.
And then when we go back home, like when we're surrounded by people who aren't necessarily content creators or whatever it may be, or trying to post tons on social media, I feel like there's still an element that I've learned and taken away from this experience that then I can not necessarily lose. I'm going to still maintain it because I've built up this comfort and skill and just new experience that isn't very common. It's not very common back home to have somebody set up their tripod and film what they're doing.
Oh, for sure.
Never.
The amount of eyes I've got like glaring at me at the gym for doing that last year was crazy. But what I also wanted to touch on was, I forget who it was that I was talking to, but we kind of collectively all agreed that the Gold Coast is an indirect representation of what real life is like. Like, it is not normal for the amount of young entrepreneurs that are online coaches in this one vicinity to be the way that it is. Like, that is not a normal thing in a normal city, in a normal place in the world. And it's just kind of crazy because it's just this hub. It's just this hub. Everyone moves here. All the fitness coaches from all around the world move here. And we've created this community and everything. But it's also kind of hard because you're constantly comparing yourself to everyone else. And it's like, at least that's how I felt. And
everything, I think everyone is, in a way, feels competitive.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've also gotten sick of is people feeling like you're competing when everyone truly can do well, but it's like there's a lot of people who really internalize the fact that it's like I need to be doing better than you. And I think that's why I'm looking forward to also going back is there's not as many people in the same space that are looking to feel like it's like who's doing better than one another in terms of followers or success in that sense.
Yeah.
And it might be a breath of fresh air.
I think it will definitely be a breath of fresh air, but then I think it could also be a trap for us to just fall back into old routine.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, what do you think like the first few months were like? So month like 0 to 3. And then we'll kind of go on and go to like month 3 to 6.
Yeah.
6
I
to
think
8.
from a very quick, like personal feeling, months 0 to 3, all I cared about was building relationships and friendships with the community, with whatever community I was able to get involved with. And that's one of the things that I was a little disappointed with the whole Australian experience was just the opportunities in terms of coaching and jobs. Like I thought there would be more opportunities being thrown around, spitballed, like, oh, like this person's looking for someone like this. I thought that was the culture.
I thought so as well.
That is not at all the culture. If you think that's what the culture is here, it's much more hush hush. And like if you want something or you meet someone, then you have to be like, look, do you know anyone who's like hiring? And then you need to then be like, can you get me connected to someone? And then it's like you definitely need to keep pushing that agenda with anyone that you know close to you. And even that is a bit of a challenge. But what was I saying? Oh, just in terms of that first few months, I was just trying to get involved and get connected with the people that I thought were going to be people that were going to be good friends, right? I wanted to surround myself and create a group of like people that I thought were going to be good people to be close and connected to. And that's what I tried to do.
Yeah. For me, the first few months were nice because it was like summertime. It just felt like a vacation, to be honest. Like it was hot. It was nice weather. We would go to the beach all the time. Yeah, we were working, but on our days off, like we just spend time at the beach if we wanted to, which is super nice because it's so beautiful here. But at the end of those, like 0 to 3 months, which would be like what, January, February now, you kind of, it just all hits you and reality sinks in and it's like, oh, the honeymoon phase of moving to the other side of the world is over now. Suddenly my savings are just dropping and, I'm living paycheck to paycheck.
This is when endurance sets in.
Yeah.
Right?
Which was hard. It was hard, like going from living at home, not having to pay rent, to suddenly paying a lot of rent and not working as much and trying to chase your goals. It just is very hard to do. But it was a sacrifice that I was willing to make. And yeah. Month 3 to 6, Cyclone Alfred hit. And if you don't know, if you're listening to this, we had a cyclone hit in March. And it was like pretty scary. Basically, we were like in lockdown, like no one was going out. You could barely buy food at the grocery store. Like nothing was open. The power went out. All the food went bad in the fridge. Like it was just scary, like going through that, to be honest. Especially because back home we don't really live near a big body of water, so the fact that we live so close to the beach and you see like what damage the water can cause and the wind can cause, it's like it was crazy to me, and that just made me very stressed. How did you feel?
Yeah, I felt like there was these different seasons since we've been here, and that whole season, that 3 to 6 months, I was just focused on training for this High Rocks race. And I think that's what anyone who's training for any competition needs to be careful with, is like things in life, like competitions, can become all consuming.
Yeah.
And my whole life revolved around like just getting ready. All my days, all I just remember was coming home from work, going on late night runs, eating dinner, and it was just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And um, and I think that's also why I think life is so interesting, because this whole Australia trip, the best takeaway from it is we had like these maybe 15 to 30 really sick experiences, but there was 365 days. So 30 days were pretty freaking epic, and they weren't possible unless we lived here. But 330 of those days were no different than if we were back home, clocking in, clocking out, doing the same things, like making food, making dinner. That's what life is it's almost 330 days, no matter where you are going to be the same. You're going to live them very similar. It's these little moments, parts of days or whatever, that are cool, that are only possible from your environment or the people that are around you. And I think that's what then was just kind of propelling us into this winter time, which was the marathon race, and really spending more time with people that we've really made good relationships with. I think that's been the nice part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I would say like, yeah, that 3 to 6 month period was like, yeah, it was all a blur, and we kind of were hitting a wall with like the podcast and where we wanted to go with it. I remember we took a break from just doing the podcast in general because we
were
were
frustrated.
frustrated with just like finances, with life, with everything, relationship, like it just wasn't working out the way we had wanted. So I made the executive decision to just say, okay, we're taking a break from the podcast. And honestly, it was the best thing we did because it kind of helped me just create a more clear vision for what I wanted to achieve in the future with this community and this brand. And yeah. And I guess month like 6 to 8 was more just adjusting to life here. Learned a lot about our relationship. Learned a lot about putting in effort and trying to be romantic even if you are in business with your significant other, because not a lot of people do that, but if you do it and you can relate, it can be hard to balance business with romance. And if it was easy, everyone would do it.
But not a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing we actually want to get into a full episode on, is like working with your significant other, because like we're not the experts on it, and we never will be.
Yeah.
But you have to be very, very intentional. It's just funny that we use that word, because that is the most important part of making sure that like we have a strong relationship, which then is the priority to then having a good brand and free speed. Free speed doesn't exist if the relationship isn't strong.
Exactly.
So,
and
I think at that end of that 9-month mark, what's interesting is I can't remember like when we started to plan this next chapter. Do you know what I mean? Like you're always, everyone's.
I would say it was maybe a month ago.
And the way I describe life is you're always casting lines in front of you, and sometimes behind you, but you're often casting these fishing lines, and it's funny because right now we've got like the next few months planned, and once we're kind of closer, then we'll have the next few months planned, and it's like you're just like unlocking new parts of the map.
Yeah.
But you don't really know where you're gonna be.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if there'll come a point where I've always casted like 3 to 6 months, But I've always felt like there's a point where it's going to be like, I could just do whatever I want, or I can't really change anything, because you're either stuck in a job or fixed in a job, depending on how you look at it, or you have any choice. You can do whatever you want.
Biggest fear, to be honest, not my biggest fear, but feeling stuck is one of my biggest fears. And that's one of the reasons why we moved to Australia and are doing this and trying to make our passions our job, so we can, you know, work remotely, work wherever we want, and not be tied down to a certain thing, because being tied down and feeling stuck to me is just the worst feeling, especially because I am a high achiever and I have very high expectations of myself, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to live the life that I envision in the future. And yeah, it's been hard. It's been a lot of hours in the back end that no one sees, of just me literally staring at my laptop, grinding, creating clips of the podcast, editing the podcast, uploading it, making the thumbnails, just everything. And basically what I also wanted to touch on was that you have to put yourself in the right rooms to get the opportunities, but also everything has a cost. But sometimes skills are more important than monetary value. And that's kind of what I've proved even with this podcast studio, is that I kind of went in with an intention of working here, and obviously I would love to work here, but it just didn't work out. So we ended up working out a deal where I could create content and provide my skill in exchange for studio. And I feel like that growth comes when you trade comfort for opportunity, and that's something that I've learned over this last year, and I will keep that with me for the foreseeable.
I think not enough people do that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm that's the thing I'm most proud of you for, is seeing the value sometimes is not so evident and so clear, and a lot of people don't realize that. Sometimes you need to make sure that, like, it's a short-term loss for a long-term play.
Yeah.
And this goes back to, like, your potential is so much more than anyone realizes, and you can cap your potential by putting yourself in the wrong rooms or surrounding yourself with the wrong people. And I think that's why even the conversations we had 4 years ago to now, it's like, what you believe you can succeed is so much bigger and better, and not better, bigger and different than what you used to think. The one thing I want to say, though, with the goal in life, is a lot of high achievers want to fill their life and be busy. And I really want people to think that being busy is not the goal. Sometimes being busy can feel productive, but busy isn't productive. Productive is productive. And freedom, having the freedom to do what you want with your time and to choose, is the goal. Is really focus on understanding that your goal is to find and give yourself the freedom to spend your time how you want it, and not just be busy.
Definitely. So guys, in this last few months that we have, or not last few months, in the last few weeks that we have here kind of in Australia, what we've kind of learned, taken away from everything, is that I'm still broke, but richer in experience.
I was not expecting that to come out of your mouth. Is that what you're leaving it with?
Sorry, yeah. I just needed to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still broke, but I'm richer in experience. And that's the reality.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. I didn't make money while living here. No. I lost a lot of my savings. Mm. But I gained experience, and I gained growth and confidence in myself. And that's really important.
And I think we've unlocked a part of the world in this sense mentally, and we will with this Asia trip and everything, that it's like whenever we want, whenever we need, it's like we know exactly what it's like. And it's not like living a life where you're in the dark or unknown or like unsure of what is out there. Is you know exactly what's out there. And I think that is a level of comfort in knowing how you make the right choices and live your life down the road. So I think that's huge. And what I'm taking out of this experience and just coming from Australia is there's a time and a place for everything in your life. And I'm ready for the next. I'm ready for the next. And it's just been the right amount of time. And as much as like we had talked about, we could have extended for 2 months. I've already shifted focus to that next chapter, which will be this travel into going back home and leading to the next opportunity. And I think I've been actually more excited for that, which is interesting because it's almost like you're living your life in the future, which you don't want to do, but also
there's a lot out there, baby.
Sometimes things aren't serving you. Sometimes where you're at right now isn't what your potential really has for you. And I know Tash and I both really, really strongly feel right now like there's opportunities when we get back that are going to allow us to really love and enjoy and be surrounded by exactly what we want. And that's what's exciting, is knowing what you also don't like is more valuable sometimes than finding what you do like. And I think that's what we're going to take. So hopefully, if you've been following us at all or look at any of our episodes, it's been a journey. We started this podcast when we got to Australia, not beforehand, but when we got to Australia. And it's crazy because this podcast and everything that we've been doing is going to continue through this entire journey back home, coming home.
Yeah. And we are still unsure of the means of how we're going to get the content to you guys while we're traveling, whether that's going to be through podcast or through free speed vlogs. We might explore that option as well, just because we know, like, what are the odds of finding a podcast studio in Cambodia? I don't really know.
Unless you got a connection, let us know.
So obviously we'll still try our best to make everything work, even if we have to pre-record a few episodes. But we hope you guys take away something from this episode today. If you're looking at a change in your life and wanting to move abroad, even if it's just for a short amount of time, do it. We really learn a lot about ourselves, and we don't ever want to scare someone away from doing it, but this is just the reality of our experience, and it could be so completely different to you if you're going to do this. But we hope that this just provides you with a little bit more insight if you're wanting to make a change in your life and move away from home, especially to Australia and the Gold Coast, and you're in the fitness scene.
And it's so easy to be like very fine tooth comb with it, but that's like, we definitely have taken some huge leaps from where we were. And I think that's the most interesting thing about this whole year is the podcast, like your involvement with your content side of things in that side, and then my strength and conditioning programming side. Those three things alone are huge takeaways from the outside that you might be like, how is it not all sunshine and rainbows? I think that's the life of a high achiever, is like it's been good, but we know it can be a lot better. And that's what you need to remind yourself, is even if things are good, they can always continue to be better. And so just remember that. Keep keep looking and searching for that way to level yourself up.
Exactly. Yeah. So thanks for listening, guys. And we hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Free Speed Podcast. We'll catch you next week. And as always, please make sure to give us a 5-star review on Spotify. That will really help our rating and get more guests on in the future. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. We would really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, and see you guys next week.
Bye.